open hand cracked across an old man's face. The sound stopped every fork in the diner. A coffee cup rocked, tipped, rolled off the edge of the booth and shattered on the tile. The young man who threw the slap was already laughing, already turning to his friends for the high five. The old man did not move. He did not lift a hand to his cheek. He did not look up. He reached for a paper napkin, folded it once, and pressed it gently to the corner of his lip. His cane, polished oak, leaned against the booth like it had been waiting for this exact moment. Nobody knew his name yet. Nobody knew the folded paper in his inside pocket. Nobody in that diner knew who they had just slapped. Why would a man who could break a wrist in one move sit perfectly still? Stay with me on this one. Tuesday in Hollister was always the same. 11,000 people, one main street, two stoplights, a courthouse with a flag that the wind had bleached pale, and the Sagebrush Diner sitting where it had sat since 1962. The coffee was bad. Everybody drank it anyway. That was the point. The old man came in at 11:40 every Tuesday. Same boots, same denim jacket with the elbows worn shiny, same flannel underneath even in summer. He used a cane on the left side. His left leg dragged a half step behind the right when he was tired. Today he was tired. He nodded at the waitress, a woman named Doreen who had served him for 9 years, and he slid into the corner booth by the window without saying a word. He did not need to order. Tuesday was the meatloaf special and 2 black coffees, no sugar. He sat with his back to the wall and his eyes on the door. That was a habit. He did not know how to sit any other way. He set the cane against the booth, took off his cap, and laid it crown down on the seat beside him. His hair was gray, cut short, military short, even though no barber in Hollister cut it. He cut it himself, every other Sunday, in the bathroom mirror of a small ranch house 6 miles out of town. Folks in Hollister called him the Colonel. They did not call him that to his face. To his face he was just Sir, or Mr. or Hey there. He never told anybody what he had done. He never wore a ball cap with a unit patch. He never put a sticker on his truck. He did not march in the 4th of July parade, even when the mayor asked him. He shook the mayor's hand, said no thank you, and went home. What people knew about him was small. He had moved to Hollister 9 years ago. He lived alone. He had a black Labrador named Sam. He paid cash for everything. He never raised his voice. He sat in the corner booth every Tuesday and read the same battered paperback, a Louis L. Amer, the same one for months, and nobody could tell if he was actually reading it or just looking at the same page and thinking about something else. Doreen brought the meatloaf. She set the plate down softly. She set the second coffee at the corner of the table, the one he never picked up until the first one was empty. She put her hand on his shoulder for 1 second, the way she always did, the way a sister might, and she walked away without making him talk. He nodded at her back. He cut his meatloaf into small, even pieces. He chewed slowly. He watched the door. A man at the counter raised a hand at him. Frank, retired highway patrol, 68, 2 divorces, 1 bad knee. They had a deal. They did not need to talk. The colonel raised 1 finger off his cup, a small return salute. That was the whole conversation. They had done that every Tuesday for 9 years. Frank had told his wife once that the colonel was a man you wanted on your side and never on the other side. His wife had asked why. Frank had shrugged. He did not have words for it. He just knew. Men who had been in real rooms knew each other on sight. The cook in the back was named Manny. The dishwasher was a kid named Tyler who was saving for community college. The deputy who came in for lunch 2 days a week was named Ray. None of these people had ever heard the colonel raise his voice. None of them had ever seen him angry. None of them had any idea that the man eating meatloaf in the corner booth had once kicked in a door in Sadr City at 2 in the morning and walked out 15 minutes later with 3 live captures and 4 dead bodies that the United States government would later say did not exist. Outside, a lifted black truck pulled into the gravel lot. Chrome wheels. Loud exhaust. two flags on poles bolted to the bed, one of them upside down, the other one of those novelty ones that says something that the man flying it thinks is funny. The truck parked across two spaces. The driver did not care. Three young men got out. The one in front was tall, 24, in a polo with the collar popped, a gold watch heavy on his wrist, jeans cuffed too high over white sneakers that did not belong in Hollister. His name in town was the Whitlock Boy. His first name did not matter. Nobody used it. He was always just the Whitlock Boy, the way some last names carry the whole family in front of them. His father owned things in Hollister. He owned the trucking yard out by the highway. He owned a stake in the new gas station. He owned the building the diner sat in, which meant he owned, in a quiet way, the diner too. He owned a private logistics company that did government work, very profitable government work, and he had owned that company for about 20 years. He sat on 3 county boards. He sponsored the high school football team. He gave a check every Christmas to the food bank and made sure the local paper took a picture. He was, by every outside measure, a respected man. His son was 24 and had never worked a Tuesday in his life. The son walked into the Sagebrush Diner like he owned it, because his father did, and the bell over the door rang the way it always did, and every head in the place turned and then turned right back to their plates. People in Hollister had learned over the years that it was easier not to look directly at the Whitlock Boy. It was easier to eat your meatloaf and let him pass. The colonel did not turn his head. He had already seen the truck pull in through the window. He had already counted 3 young men. He had already noted the deputy 2 booths over, who suddenly developed a deep interest in his phone. He cut another small, even piece of meatloaf. He chewed. He waited. The Whitlock Boy walked the length of the diner like a man, strolling through a room he had paid for. His 2 friends trailed behind him, grinning, already laughing at jokes they had not heard yet. He stopped at the corner booth. He looked down at the old man with the cane. He looked at the booth, the window, the coffee, the worn paperback. "That's my booth today, old-timer," he said. He said it loud enough for the whole diner to hear, because the whole diner was the point. "Get up." The colonel did not look up. He set his fork down beside his plate, exactly parallel to the knife. He took a slow breath. He spoke once quietly. "Plenty of seats, son." The Whitlock Boy laughed. He turned to his friends. He spread his arms. "Plenty of seats," he says. "Plenty of seats," he turned back. He leaned down, palms flat on the formica, his face close enough that the colonel could smell the gel in his hair and the beer he had started drinking somewhere before noon. "That booth," the Whitlock Boy said, "is mine. Today. Tomorrow. Every day I want it. You understand me, Grandpa?" The colonel looked up for the first time. His eyes were pale blue and very steady. He did not blink. He did not speak. He just looked. Now here's the thing. There's a kind of look that men who have been in real rooms with real killers can give. It is not anger. It is not fear. It is something else, something quieter and much worse, the look of a man who has already decided what the next 10 seconds will cost and has decided he can afford them. The Whitlock Boy did not know that look. He had never been in a real room. He saw an old man with a cane, and he saw something he wanted to break for fun. He reached out and flicked the coffee cup with one finger. The cup tipped. Coffee poured across the table, across the open paperback, across the colonel's hand. The Whitlock Boy laughed. "Oops," he said. The colonel did not move his hand. He let the coffee run over his knuckles. He let it drip off the edge of the booth onto the tile. He did not flinch. The Whitlock Boy stopped laughing. Something in him needed more. Something in him could not stand being looked at like that without getting bigger. He drew his hand back and he slapped the old man across the face. Open palm. Hard. The sound was a flat, dry crack that froze every fork in the place. The colonel's head turned with the slap. He did not raise a hand. He did not stand up. He reached for a paper napkin from the holder, folded it once, and pressed it gently to the corner of his lip where a small bead of blood had appeared. He set the napkin down beside his plate. He looked at the Whitlock boy again. Same pale blue eyes. Same nothing in them. The Whitlock boy grinned slow because he thought he had won. "Get out of my booth," he said. The colonel set his cap on his head. He picked up his cane. He slid out of the booth. He did not say a word. He walked to the counter 8 steps, slow, the left leg dragging a half step, and he sat down on a stool by the cash register. He laid the cane across his knees. He asked Doreen very softly for another coffee. She poured it with shaking hands. She did not look at the booth. Nobody looked at the booth. The Whitlock boy sat down in it. His friend slid in across from him. He put his feet up on the seat the colonel had just left. He ordered 3 plates of fries and 3 beers. He spoke loud. He laughed loud. He owned the room. The diner exhaled slow, the way a town exhales when a thing it was afraid of has passed. A ceiling fan turned. A truck went by on Main Street. The colonel sipped his coffee at the counter. He did not look angry. He did not look afraid. He looked patient. The Whitlock boy thought it was over. It was not over. It had just begun. The colonel finished his coffee at the counter, slow. He set the cup down. He turned the cup so the handle pointed toward the door, a small thing, an old habit from a different life. He laid his hand flat on the counter beside the cup. The hand was steady. It had always been steady, even in rooms where it had no right to be. He took a slow breath. 3 names. He thought the 3 names once through, one after the other, the way a priest thinks a prayer. Then he set the names down inside himself, gentle, the way a man sets down a thing he has been carrying for a long time. He thought about the deputy. Ray was a good man. 29 years old. Body cam standard issue. The camera had been on since Ray walked in for lunch at 11:35. The camera had filmed the truck pulling up. The camera had filmed the booth demand. The camera had filmed the slap. The camera was still rolling. The colonel did not need to look at Ray to know any of this. He had counted it the way a man counts exits when he walks into a room. He thought about the paper in his inside pocket. He thought about 2 Tuesdays ago, when a small white envelope had arrived in his mailbox 6 miles outside of town. No return address, plain block typewriter on the front, the kind of envelope the federal people send when they want you to know a thing without saying it out loud. He had opened the envelope. He had read the single sheet. He had refolded it. He had put it in the inside pocket of his denim jacket. He had carried it for 2 Tuesdays without saying a word to anybody, not even to Sam, because some things you do not say out loud until the room is ready to hear them. The room was ready now. The Whitlock boy had made the room ready. The colonel set his coffee cup down on the counter. He turned on the stool slow until he was facing the corner booth. He did not stand. He spoke once, just loud enough to be heard across the diner. "Son, your father's full name. Say it out loud." The Whitlock boy looked up from his fries. He frowned. "What?" "Your father's full name," the colonel said again, the same quiet, the same nothing. "First, middle, last. Say it out loud for the room." The Whitlock boy laughed, but it came out wrong. "Too quick. Everybody knows my father, old man." "Then it won't be hard." There was a long second where the only sound was the ceiling fan. The deputy 2 booths over finally looked up from his phone. Doreen had stopped pouring. The cook in the back had stopped scraping the grill. Even the truck noise on Main seemed to dim. The Whitlock boy said the name. 3 words. His father's name. He said it loud, with a little laugh, the way you say a name when you are trying to remind a stranger who you belong to. The colonel nodded slow. He reached into the inside pocket of his denim jacket. He did not take out a gun. He did not take out a phone. He took out a folded sheet of paper. The folds were soft. The edges were worn. It looked like a piece of paper that had been folded and unfolded 1,000 times, carried in a pocket through 3 deployments and 20 years of Tuesdays. He stood up from the stool using the cane, and he walked slow to the corner booth. He did not sit. He laid the folded paper on the table next to the basket of fries. He smoothed it once with his palm. He did not unfold it. "Read that," he said. "Out loud. To your friends." The Whitlock boy did not touch the paper. His friends had stopped chewing. The room had gone very still. The Whitlock boy looked up. For the first time, he looked at the colonel properly. He saw the way the old man stood. He saw the way the cane rested. He saw the eyes. He saw, too late, the look he should have seen the first time. "What is this?" he said. The voice was not the voice he had walked in with. The colonel did not answer that question. He answered a different one. "In 2006, he said, I ran a task force. We hunted a man. The man we hunted ghost-built the Pentagon for 19 months. He moved fuel that wasn't there. He moved trucks that didn't exist. He moved bodies. 3 of mine. He paid a settlement in 2008, and he changed the name of his company, and he moved to a small town, and he started over. He sits on 3 county boards now, son. He sponsors your football team. If you're still with me, hit that subscribe button. It tells me you want the rest of these. Now, let's keep going." The Whitlock boy's face had stopped being a face. It had become a thing trying to hold itself together. His 2 friends were looking at him, slow, the way friends look at a man they are about to stop being friends with. The colonel tapped the folded paper once with 1 finger. That paper has his old call signs. The names of 3 contractors who flipped on him in 2006. A date. A case number. The case number is a DOJ file. The file was sealed in 2008. It was unsealed last month. I was notified as the original officer in charge 2 Tuesdays ago. I came in here today the way I come in every Tuesday. I was going to drink my coffee and drive home and let the federal people do their work the way federal people do work. He paused. He looked down at the boy. "You changed the schedule, son. You slapped a witness in front of a deputy and 22 civilians. You put your father's name in this room. You did that. Not me." The Whitlock boy stood up fast, the way a young man stands when his body is telling him to run and his pride is telling him to swing. He swung. The colonel did not move much. He shifted his weight onto the cane, turned his shoulder 6 inches, and the punch went past him into the booth back. The Whitlock boy's wrist hit the wood. Something popped. He yelped. His friends did not move to help him. They were looking at the door. Outside on Main Street, a black SUV had pulled up to the curb. Then a second one behind it. The doors opened. 4 men got out. They wore plain dark jackets. They did not hurry. They were not local. The deputy in the booth finally got up. He looked at the colonel. The colonel gave him the smallest nod, the kind one professional gives another. The deputy walked to the door and opened it for them. The 4 men walked in. They did not look at the Whitlock boy. They did not look at the colonel. They walked past the corner booth. They walked past the counter. They walked through the diner and out the back, the way a man walks when he already knows where the back door is. 2 of them. The other 2 stood at the front, polite, waiting. The Whitlock boy held his wrist. He stared at the federal men. "Why are they?" he started. "Why are they here?" The colonel sat down at the counter again. He picked up his coffee. He blew on it slow. "They're not here for you, son," he said. "They were never here for you. You're not important enough to bring 2 SUVs across 3 counties. They're here for your father. Your father's at the trucking yard right now. They'll be there in 11 minutes. He won't see lunch tomorrow at home." The Whitlock boy's mouth opened. He closed it. He opened it again. The colonel sipped his coffee. He looked for the first time, tired in a different way. Not the body tired. The other one. You slapped me, he said quietly, almost to himself. You slapped me in front of a deputy. You put your father's name in this room. The deputy's body cam was on. Everything you said in here in the last 40 minutes is now on a federal recording. Including your father's full name in your voice, said loud with witnesses. He set the cup down. That was your contribution, son. That was the piece they didn't have. A woman across the diner made a small sound, a hand over her mouth. The cook came out of the back, wiping his hands on a towel, and stood there not knowing what to do with the towel. The Whitlock boy sat down, slow, in the booth. He looked at the folded paper. He still had not opened it. He did not need to anymore. The colonel finished his coffee. He laid a 10 and a 5 on the counter, exact the way he always did. He pulled his cap down. He picked up his cane. He walked slow, the left leg dragging a half-step toward the door. As he passed the corner booth, he stopped. He did not look at the boy. He looked out the window at the SUVs. You hit an old man for a booth, he said very softly. Your father hit a country for 19 months. The bill came in today. Both of them. He walked out. The bell rang over the door. The two federal men at the front nodded at him, the smallest nod, recognition. He nodded back. Outside, the wind moved the bleached flag on the courthouse pole, slow, the way it had moved it on every Tuesday he had been in Hollister. He climbed into his pickup, an old white Ford with no stickers on it. He set the cane on the passenger seat. He sat for a long minute with his hands on the wheel. He did not cry. He did not smile. He looked at the diner door, at the people behind the glass, and he thought about 3 names. 3 of his. The ones the Whitlock Company had moved as bodies in '06. He said the names out loud in the cab of the truck, one after the other. Then he started the engine and he drove home, 6 miles, slow, on the road he knew by feel. Sam met him at the porch. The black Labrador put his head against the colonel's good leg and stood there a long time. The colonel rested his hand on the dog's head. The flag on the porch moved. A wind came down off the high desert, dry, clean. He stood and he listened. There was no siren. There would not be a siren. The men who had come for the elder Whitlock did not use sirens. They used quiet. He understood quiet. He had spent his life inside it. He went inside. He took off the denim jacket. He hung it on the peg by the door. He took the folded paper out of the inside pocket, and he set it on the small wooden table where he ate. He did not unfold it. He had not needed to unfold it in the diner. He had memorized it 20 years ago. The folding had only ever been for him, a thing his hand did when he was thinking about 3 names. He opened a small wooden box on the shelf above the table. Inside the box were 3 things. A folded American flag, the small kind, the kind they hand a widow after the rifle volley. A photograph, black and white, 4 men in desert fatigue standing in front of a Humvee, 3 of them grinning, one of them on the far left, not grinning, pale blue eyes, younger, the colonel at 31. And a piece of paper with 3 names written on it in his own hand. He had written the names the night the bodies came home. He had written them slow, in block letters, the way a man writes a thing he never wants to misspell. He took the photograph out of the box. He looked at the 3 grinning faces. He said their names out loud, one by one in the quiet kitchen with Sam at his feet. Then he put the photograph back in the box. He closed the lid. He did not need the box open anymore. The names had finally been carried where they were supposed to go. He made a sandwich. He shared half of it with Sam. He sat in the chair by the window, and he watched the light change on the ridge. The phone rang once. He let it ring. It was the deputy, probably, or a reporter from the county paper who had heard already. He did not need to talk yet. He would talk tomorrow, on tape in a small room with the federal people. He had done that kind of talking before. He knew how to do it slow. In town, the elder Whitlock did not see lunch at home. He saw 2 black SUVs, come through the gate of his trucking yard at 12:11. He saw 4 men in plain jackets walk past his receptionist without slowing. He saw a federal warrant placed on his desk. He saw his own old call sign printed on the top of a page. He stood up. He sat down. He stood up again. He did not run. There was nowhere to run that he had not already moved fuel through. His son at the diner did not move from the booth for 40 minutes. The federal men at the door did not arrest him. They told him, polite, that he was not under arrest, that he was free to go, that someone would be in touch, that he should not leave the county. He nodded. He kept nodding. He could not stop nodding. His 2 friends had already left. They had walked out the back, into the gravel lot, into the lifted black truck, and they had driven away without him. Doreen brought him a glass of water. She set it down without a word. He looked at it like he had never seen a glass of water before. The next Tuesday came. Hollister did what Hollister does. It opened the diner at 6. It poured the bad coffee. It cooked the meatloaf. The flag on the courthouse moved in the wind. The deputy who had been in the booth 2 Tuesdays ago sat at the counter and ate his eggs and did not look at his phone. At 11:40, the bell over the door rang. The colonel walked in. He used the cane on the left side. He nodded at Doreen. He slid into the corner booth by the window. He set his cap on the seat beside him, crown down. He laid the cane against the booth. He took out the same battered paperback. He opened it to the same page. Doreen brought the meatloaf. She set it down softly. She set the second coffee at the corner of the table. She put her hand on his shoulder for 1 second. She did not say anything. She did not need to. The booth across from him was empty. The lifted black truck was not in the gravel lot. It had not been in the gravel lot for 3 days. The elder Whitlock's trucking yard had a federal seal on the gate. The county boards he had sat on had quietly removed his name from the letterhead. The football team had a new sponsor. The food bank Christmas check would come from someone else this year. The colonel cut his meatloaf into small, even pieces. He chewed slowly. He watched the door. He did not look proud. He did not look sad. He looked the way he always looked, which was patient, the patience of a man who had been waiting for a long time and had finally been told he could stop waiting. He had not raised a hand in the diner. He had not raised his voice. He had laid a folded paper on a table, and he had asked a young man to say a name out loud. That was all. That was enough. A boy of about 10 came in with his mother. He stared at the colonel the way kids stare. The colonel caught the boy's eye and gave him the smallest nod, a serious nod, one man to one man. The boy stood a little straighter. His mother caught the moment and gave the colonel a small nod of her own. She had grown up in Hollister. Her father had worked at the trucking yard before the Whitlock name was on the gate. She knew what the federal seal on that gate meant for her town. She knew, too, that the man in the corner booth had something to do with it, though she would never ask and he would never tell. Frank from the counter raised one finger off his cup. The colonel raised one finger off his own. The whole conversation again. 9 years of Tuesdays, the same conversation. Frank smiled slow into his coffee. He did not say a word. Outside, the wind moved the bleached flag slow. A truck went by on Main Street. The ceiling fan turned. The coffee was bad. Everybody drank it anyway. That was the point. He finished his meatloaf. He laid a 10 and a 5 on the counter exact. He put on his cap. He picked up his cane. He walked slow, the left leg dragging a half-step, out into the high desert light. Sam was waiting in the cab of the old white Ford. The colonel climbed in. He set the cane on the passenger seat. He started the engine. 3 names, he thought. 3 of mine. Bill paid. He drove home.